Welcome to Virtu-Wool Fiber Festival. My name is Roy Clemes of Clemes Clemes. We're going to be here for about 45 minutes. It is 4 minutes after 3 here, and we can do our still full 45 minutes, and then take a few questions at the end of that, and then we'll be there. So if you do have questions, pop them into the comments, and I'll have Henry read them out to me. And other than that, let's get started. First, I want to thank MAB Elements, who was before us. Thanks for passing off the baton. And also wanted to thank Bewitched Pigments for setting this whole Virtu-Wool Fiber Festival up. Thank you very much. It's a different environment that we're all working in today, as far as working with COVID-19 and dealing with not having live festivals and live shows to go to. So I do thank them for stepping up and providing this venue for us, and putting all these great different vendors together and inviting us to be a part of it. So appreciate that. Hats off to you. I know it's a lot of work putting all this together, so thank you for that. First thing I want to talk about just a little bit, for those of you who may not know a whole lot about our company. We are a very small company. It's myself and my father. Occasionally we have a little bit extra family helping us out. But it's myself and my dad. You'll see us out on the road when we actually have live shows, usually just the two of us in the booth, the two of us teaching. And then when we get back home, it's just the two of us doing all the manufacturing. So anything that I have over here, like my drum carders, which is a little bit out of the picture, our new lock pop that's here, blending board down here, hand cards, all like that. It's either myself or the guy who's sitting behind the camera over there doing all the making, all the testing, all the design, all the packaging. So, you know, we really put our heart and souls into the products. And at the same time, if you have any complaints, we pick up the phone. So give us a call, shoot us an email, let us know. We're going to be the guys who made it. So we think our quality control is pretty good that way. But if you ever have any problems with anything, you just let us know. We've been around since 1971. My father got started way back in the day. He actually got started when he was in high school and started his own business shortly after that. We're here in the San Francisco Bay Area. We've been in the same location almost 50 years now. So been doing this for quite a while. We started with spinning wheels, which I don't have right here, of course, naturally. We started with spinning wheels. We quickly got into hand cards. We're very well known, not just throughout the country, but throughout the world for our hand cards. Along the way, we did a lot of other things as far as manufacturing wood products, but fiber arts is what we love. It's what we're really good at. It's what we stick to. So from hand cards, we went to drum carders, and I'll get to the drum carder in just a little bit. But we also have our blending board, our lock pop, basically everything you need to prepare fiber, we make it. So that's a little bit about us and what we do. Where to go from here? Okay. First things first, I know you're all waiting for it. Our special passcode is drum carder. Okay, you can write it as one word, you can write it as 2 words. It is Carder with a D, C-A-R-D-E-R. If you spell it incorrectly, don't worry. If it's close enough, we'll get you in there. So I'll try to remember to say that early and often. And if I don't, just put something in the comments and I'll remember to do it. Okay, a couple things I want to mention before I get started talking about a couple of new products. We started back in April when this whole COVID coronavirus thing went down. We started doing $5 free shipping. $5 shipping on any order under $50 and free shipping on any order over $50. We are keeping that going as long as we're going to be stuck at home and we can't travel and show things off. That's one promotion that we're going to keep going. And that applies to big items, right? So drum carder, the electric one over here that I'm going to be using in a little bit, it weighs 46 pounds. It's a big box, 26 inches by 17 by 17, I think. Ships for free, right? Anywhere in the country you want it, go on the website. That's clemes.com, CLEMES.com. Ships for free. So big items, anything over 50 bucks, doesn't matter, ships for free. And as far as shipping goes, I'm going to talk about Good Clean Fiber in a little bit as well. And good clean fiber, no matter what quantity, 2 ounces, 2 pounds, whatever you want, good clean fiber always ships for free. Okay, so let's talk just a little bit about some of our smaller items, and then we're going to get onto that big code word, which again is drum card. So this is our blending board. Do you have some comments?
Drum carder, drum carder, drum
Oh,
carder.
okay. Okay, lots of good drum carder comments coming in. All right, keep them coming. Okay, so this is our blending board. We designed this back in 2012. It's the first time that it hit the market. We worked with a lady by the name of Gwen Powell out of Southern California. She had this absolutely bonkers idea, came to us with it. Somehow she convinced us to actually make it, and here we are. This landed on the cover of Spin-Off magazine back in 2012. We've been making them ever since. Often imitated, never duplicated. It's a 72 teeth per inch carding cloth. You can card any fiber that you want on it. It'll card everything from real short fibers like cotton. It can do longer fibers if you want to do something that's 6 inches long, like a nice Lincoln. Go for it. Okay, this is a woolen preparation tool. You're going to prepare your fiber against the teeth, roll it off around a dowel, and draft against the teeth, and make yourself some nice Rolex. Okay. I did already mention our hand cards, but I did just want to mention that we make them in more than just our standard woods. This pair here, if I can get it not to glare, let's see. There we go. This pair here is in cherry, and they are shrunk wrapped together. The reason is our fancy woods like this, the cherry, the walnuts, we do lace wood and purple heart padauk, a lot of fancier, more exotic style woods. Everything that we do in these are matched pairs, meaning that this piece is taken from the piece right next to it. So if you put these two side by side, you're going to see the wood grain continue all the way through. So we shrink wrap them to keep them together. Make sure that the pairs stay together. These ones also do receive a lacquer finish. You want to protect your investment a little bit. It's a little bit more expensive than the pair of hand cards, standard pair of hand cards with the standard wood. So we want to make sure we keep them together, get that nice lacquer finish on there. Make sure that when they show up at your house, they aren't dinged up and it's the right pair matching together. Okay. So let's move on. Anything in the comments that I need to address? We're good there? Okay. We're going to keep it rolling. I do want to talk about one of our newest tools. This is the lock pop. Now this is just it's a little block of wood. It's got this nice curved part to it. Oh, there we go, curved part there. I'm not the best fan of white, but it does have a piece of carding cloth on top. It's curved here. It's got this hole right here. Comes with a clamp, and I'll show you just a little bit. I'm going to go to a top-down view when we start talking a little bit. This clamps down to a table very easily. This has changed the world of fiber prep, and I'll show you why. This makes it extremely simple to pop a lock open. You take one little lock of fiber, and if you think of this as an inverted flicker, that's probably the best way that I like to think about it when somebody says, how would I use this? If you think about, if you have a flicker or a cleaning brush, let's say, because they're going to act similarly, rather than flicking, right, you got the little flick of the wrist, rather than flicking this while holding a lock, you're going to do the opposite, okay? So this will be mounted to the table, and you're going to be flicking the lock. So while this is mounted sturdy to the table, you aren't holding all this weight, right? You're only flicking and holding the weight of the lock of fiber. Whereas here, you've got all of that flick of the wrist and all the extra weight. It's not that heavy, but if you do this for a couple of hours, which if you're doing a whole fleece, you are going to be, right? So if you're doing that for hour after hour, it's really going to get repetitive. So the ergonomics of the lock pop are just an absolute game changer. It makes things really quick as far as opening up a lock before you put it into the drum carder. It makes it very simple if you want to just flick the locks open or pop the locks open and spin directly from the lock. So it's really a game changer that way.
Sandy says it's helped the ergonomics with your hands.
Okay, and got a comment there from Sandy about the lock pop helping out the ergonomics of your hand. So thank you for the comments. All right, and last but not least, I'm going to reach over here, grab the drum carder. That's what I'm going to do the majority of my demonstrating on today. And I've already got it plugged in. You're going to see me just pull it over here. Again, it's about 43 pounds. I think shipping weight's about 46 pounds. So it's not terribly heavy. Okay, I'm going to make it look easy though. And someone should have cleaned this before he did this, but I did not. So my apologies. This drum carder is a little dirty. Okay, now I am going to, so one question. Okay.
Talk about the differences in our hand carders between flat, curved, and student.
Okay, sure. So the question is, what's the difference in hand cards? And I do apologize we're doing this through Zoom into Facebook. So there's about a 30-second to maybe a minute delay, so it just depends. So if there's a little bit of lag or it seems like I'm not answering your question, I'm sorry, we got to do some time travel or something to be live, but I'll get to these as fast as I can. So if I'm going back and forth and I lose you, I'm sorry. But let's talk about hand cards. So the question was, what's the difference between curved back hand cards, flat hand cards, and then the student sides? And I'm going to also answer that by tossing in what's the difference between the wool and the cotton cards. Okay, so what I have in my hand here are wool cards. These are 72 teeth per inch. They're designed for a relatively coarse, relatively long fiber. Cotton cards, which I didn't bother to grab. Cotton cards are a little bit wider and a little bit narrower. They are designed to be most efficient at a relatively short, relatively fine fiber. Okay. Now that doesn't mean that they can only do cotton. That just means in terms of if it's a wool fiber and it's short, if you have an exotic fiber like a kiviot or a down fiber, anything like that. If you've got a nice short merino that's 2.5 inches, something like that, that's going to be on the finer side of the spectrum, and on the shorter end of the spectrum, you would want to be thinking about cotton cards. Now, there is sort of the question that we get quite often where somebody says, well, I have a fine fiber, but it's long. Maybe it's a crossbreed, maybe it's an alpaca, something else. So my answer there is to sample. And my answer, of course, because I'm a tool maker, is, well, you really need a pair of both, right? You need both the wool cards and you need the cotton cards. And you need to sample and figure out which one works best for that fiber or that blend of fibers or whatever project or whatever, what have you got for me? There we go. Or whatever yarn it is that you're trying to make. Okay, so here's a size comparison so you can see. I'll hold up wool card, cotton card. So you can see the difference. The TPI on the cotton is about 120. Okay, so again, that's for your relatively fine, relatively short fibers. Now you can see, going back to that question I was just mentioning, where somebody says, well, I have an alpaca and it's really fine, but it's about 6 inches long. Well, this carding pad is only about half of that. So if half your fiber is hanging off the carding pad, you're not going to be doing a whole lot. So in all likelihood, even though it's a relatively fine fiber, you're probably going to end up with a pair of the wool cards that'll work best for you.
And for wakaya?
For wakaya, it's going to tend to be shorter. Probably the cotton cards would be my guess. Your wakaya, you're usually in that 3 to 4 inch range is sort of the wheelhouse there, just depending upon when they clipped it. So cotton cards is probably what I would recommend for that. Again, sample and see what works best for you. And I'll briefly mention the difference in curved back and flat back cards. I can tell you that probably less than 1% of what we sell is the flat back version. So I would definitely, unless for some reason you have a particular reason that you don't like the curved back, then you could think about the flat back. But some teachers do teach with flat back and some people do like it. As far as ergonomics go though, the curved back really has it. It's just a lot more ergonomic. Again, with the flick of the wrist, it's all about the ergonomics of the curved back. Did I miss anything on?
Marcy wants to know if there's a video on the lock pop yet.
No, Marcy, there's not a video on the lockbox yet. I'm sorry. We spent the last couple weeks trying to catch up on orders and getting things ready here for summer camp, which is what we're doing this week. That's what we're kicking off today. We're calling summer camp. So we're going to be live every day for the next week here, all the way. This is Saturday. We're going all the way through the next Saturday. So we're going to do 8 days of videos, and took a little bit of time to get everything prepped for that. But we will be doing a lot of work on the lock pop over the next 8 days. So I would encourage you to check in. And maybe after that, a week from Sunday, a week from tomorrow is Father's Day. So I'm taking that day off. And maybe after that, I can get a little bit of downtime, and then we can start thinking about that lock pop video. Ah, drum quarter. That's what you want to do. Okay.
And the student version of hand cards.
Oh. See, I knew I wasn't done yet. I wasn't ready. Okay. Did you bring, okay, you brought me a flicker. Okay, so one last question on hand cards was, what is the size of the student? It's okay, I got it. Okay, so on the cotton cards, the student size is half the width. Okay. So instead of full width, it's gonna be half the width. And on the wool cards, it's gonna be 2/3 of the width. Okay, so this is a flicker. This is 1/3 of the width. So on the cotton cards, it's going to be the remaining, or I'm sorry, on the student cards, it's going to be the remaining portion. So it's going to be this wide. And obviously the handle is centered. But that's the width that you're working with. So we do recommend, as far as the student cards, if you have any sort of ergonomic, any reasons that you would be concerned about the ergonomics like that, like say you have some elbow, wrist, shoulder, fatigue issues, anything like that, you would want to think about the student size. But you do want to think about the fact that every time that you're stroking these, right, every little bit of work that you're doing, if it's on the wool cards and versus the student cards, you're going to get 2/3 as much work done. If it's the student cotton cards, you're going to get half as much work done with every stroke. Okay, so it's up to you entirely as far as you know your body best, or if you're teaching somebody who's small, you know, teaching the children or something like that, you know, you want to think about that. Okay, yeah. Okay, so we're gonna try this again. I'm gonna put these on the shelf. Just waiting for somebody to ask that question one more time. No, we're good? Okay. All right, so let's talk about the word of the day, drum carders. Okay, and with me here, I've got a lot of tools. So our drum carders, our Elite series, they come with 6 different tools to help you get the most out of your drum carder. So the first one is a doffer. This is a stainless steel doffer for lifting your bat. You come along and you're lifting your seam right here. You're gonna lift and separate your bat. This is a 1/4" stainless steel, what we call the no bend doffer. So your knuckles don't get too close and get all nicked up, and this won't bend and nick up your teeth or anything like that. So there's one. We did already briefly talk about the cleaning brush. This is what you use in between bats or when you're done with a carding session. You'll use this to clean your drum card. Okay. The bat lifter that I have here, this is a proprietary tool that we invented for removing the entire bat. And not only does it remove the entire bat, it also stores it. Okay, so I'll get to this in just a second. This is a fun one. We also have the packing brush. The packing brush builds about a 50% thicker bat, or sorry, 30% thicker bat compared to not packing. That is really helpful as far as your efficiency when you're working along, and if you have to stop a third less often, it saves you a lot of time. Okay. Also helps to keep the bat together when you take it off, which is important, and make sure that you remove the whole bat. When you use it in conjunction with the bat lifter, that's how you know you can get a nice clean drum. We also have the burnishing brush. This one does pack a 50% thicker bat. And again, that's important as far as your efficiency. You're gonna have to stop half as often, and that's a lot of time savings. This one can be a little harsh, being that this one has steel bristles. So if you're working with a fine fiber, you might wanna think about using the packing brush instead. And that's the reason that we give you both of them. Again, it's like I said before, you wanna sample, you wanna see what works best for you. And our last tool here I'm going to pull one out of the Diz pack, is the Diz, okay? And just one of these comes with it. The rest of the pack here is optional. You can buy that later. The Diz is how you can remove a carded sliver or a roving from the drum carder. The carded sliver that you would remove from a drum carder is night and day different from what you would purchase as far as a roving from an indie dyer, you know, one of those braids that you pick up at fiber festivals that we can't have this year. They are, when you take it off of a drum carder, it's going to be lofty, it's going to draft like butter, it's going to be very light, easy to separate, easy to draft, very easy to spin. If you've ever gone to a festival, bought a braid, throw it in the bottom of your bag, tossed it in the trunk of the car, by the time you got it home, it was matted, felted between the dyeing process and all the wrestling, and it was almost unspinnable. I've heard it, you know, heard that story time and time again. So making your own carded sliver on a drum carder is a way to get around that. Even if you like the dyed braid that you bought, run it through your drum carder, pull it off as a carded sliver. It's going to feed and process like butter. You're going to like it. Okay, so now that I've got all the tools out, move some of these things out of the way here. And let's do a little bit of actual carding. I'm going to shift to the overhead camera in case there's any questions. Nothing so far. Okay, we're going to shift to the overhead camera. Okay, there we go. All right, so let's do a little bit of work. The first thing I'm going to do, move these tools around, give myself some space, and then I'm going to take my lock pop and clamp it up right on the edge of the table here. Okay, we've got about 20 minutes left, so we've got enough time to build one bat. So let's pull out some fiber, and let's get to playing. What have we got? Ooh, here we go. I'm going to cheat. I'm going to start with something really good. Okay. I'm starting with some Corradale from Good Clean Fiber, and while I'm prepping this and getting to work here, that'll give me a good chance to talk about Good Clean Fiber. Okay, but first let's take a look at this. Okay, look at this luscious Corradale. All right, now I could feed this into the drum carder just like this. I wouldn't have any problem. It would feed in, and after a couple of passes, it would be really nice. But with my lock pop right here, I can lean over, and like I said, you think of it as a flicker, right? So you're flicking the lock, and it's taken off just a little bit of the tip there that we didn't want, and it's opened it up, and look at that. That's a cloud now. That's going to feed through one pass through the drum carder. This is going to be a really nice bat. You're going to love to spin it. Okay, so I'm going to prep a couple more of these, and then we'll get started. Okay, I'm going to find my lock structure here, because this is really going to help. If you're just throwing a big mishmash at the carder, don't really know what you're doing, you're not going to have great results. And if you see something, of course, because this is live, the piece that I grabbed, you see how it just kind of tore into little bits like that? This is the one thing I love about the lock pop, is that it said, okay, well, here's a bit that's just going to turn into a nep and noil. Okay, let me see if I can get this so you can see it. If I just fed that into the carder, it would have went into my bat, would have made a nep or an oil right there in my bat, and would have been stuck there left forever. If we wanted to, we could have pulled it out of the spinning process if we would have seen it. But having run it through my lock pop right here, I got it out of here. I've got a compost can right next to the side of the carder. So I'm ready to go there. I just drop it in there and I say, okay, I can save that for felting. I can save it for compost. I can do whatever I want with it. But I don't want that short. I don't want that tender part. I don't want that noil going into my bat. So I'm going to kick it out before it even gets into the carding stage. Okay. One of the things I absolutely love about the lock pop. And you can see there was a little bit of vegetable matter in this piece that I picked up. And again, look how open and lofty that is. I mean, it's a cloud, right? So that's what we're looking for. When you're looking through that, you see how you can see my red line, right? When you look through that fiber cloud, you can see the red line. And that's what we're looking for when we're feeding the drum carder. So before I even get started here, let me mention two things that if you're ever having trouble with your drum carder are gonna help you out. One, you wanna be able to see this red line. See how you can see it there? I put it in, you can still kind of see right where it is, right? So we're feeding a cloud in. You always wanna be able to see through the fiber cloud that you're feeding into your drum carder, okay? The second thing is, when you're feeding your drum carder, and your fiber is approaching the liquor in. This is what we call the liquor in. This big one over here is the swift. You can call it the small drum or the infeed drum here. You can call this one the big drum, the worker, whatever you want to call it. People have all kinds of different names, but we call them, as far as the small one, the liquor in, call this one the swift. So when your fiber is approaching the liquor in, let go, okay? Don't hold back. If you hold back, it's going to wrap right around the liquor in. If I'm over here and you catch yourself constantly doing this, especially on a hand crank drum carder, what we find a lot of times is somebody's over here cranking with this hand and they don't know what to do with this hand. So they hold it over here and they kind of guide the fiber, but when they're guiding it, what they're really doing is holding it back. And so they're causing it to wrap right around the liquor in and giving themselves all kinds of problems. So if you need to take this hand, especially on a hand crank drum carder, if you need to take your offhand and put it behind your back, that's okay. If you have to sit on it, do whatever you have to do, right? Let's see if we got some questions here.
The one question, so you can discard your wool, or you can compost your wool discard? Yes, you can.
Yeah, you can absolutely compost or you know, however you want to use your wool. It's your wool. It is great for preventing weed prevention. Okay, you can put it out there. It makes great mulch. So you can lay it out there.
Elite carders, are they made to order, or are they ready to ship?
Okay, and then a question on availability of elite carders. We would love it if they were available to ship. But since about March, we've had trouble getting the handful of components that we don't actually make ourselves. So right now we're backed up. We have a few orders actually still sitting out since April, but within the next week or two, we should be able to catch up with April and May sales. So the one thing that I would say is the sooner that you order, the sooner in line you're going to be. And we don't like to give lead times. I know that's always the second question when somebody hears that we don't have them in stock, is what's lead time. And I don't like to give lead times, especially right now. It's so hard to predict just what's going on out there and when we're going to be able to get delivery of, like I said, the few things that we don't make in-house. So yeah, that's where I leave that. Okay, I'm going to go back to prepping a little bit of this fiber here. And if you have questions, keep them coming. We still got quite a bit of time here, okay? And the password, once again, is drum carder, DRUMCARDER, okay? And if you enter that code word into the comments, you will be entered in a drawing. And at the end of the day today, the good people who are putting on the Virtu-Wool Fiber Festival will select a random winner. They'll let me know, and I'm going to ship you 8 ounces of good clean fiber. That's what I'm working with here. And as soon as I get the carder going, we'll start talking just a little bit about our good clean fiber program. And I should mention, as long as we're talking about drum carders, I should mention that we do have a special for the next week here. We are not only offering the free shipping, because drum carders are more than $50. Like I said earlier, any order of $50 or more gets a free shipping. We are spicing it up by giving you, on an elite convertible, not only are you getting 4 ounces of good clean fiber, but you're going to get 30 minutes of free one-on-one Zoom time. So if you're not comfortable setting up your carder, or if you've had a drum carder and you're really comfortable and you want to talk about technique or whatever it is, it's 100% up to you, however you want to use those 30 minutes. If you just, if you are a drum carding pro and you just want to chit chat with us for 30 minutes, that is completely fine. It is up to you. It's your time to talk about whatever you want to talk about. And moving on up the line in the Elite Series, when we get to the crankless, which is the one that I'm working on, the convertible is the hand crank version of this. It is later convertible to electric drive, I should say. So getting to this beast that I'm working on here, this is the convertible, and that one gets you 8 ounces of good clean fiber and 1 hour of one-on-one Zoom, if you want to call it conferencing, coaching, whatever it is. You have our attention, full and undivided, for 30 minutes, or for an hour, I'm sorry, on that one. And then on the crankless double wide, which is this machine, but 8 inches wider, you get, again, our full undivided attention for an hour, and you also get 1 pound of good clean fiber. And I should mention that 1 pound of good clean fiber on the crankless double wide is only 2 bats. So that double wide is our big capacity machine. It is a lot of fun to use. It's great for felters, but it's also great for anybody who's looking for a machine that can do one project, I should say one bat, and do an entire project. Okay, so I'm going to keep feeding the carder here, and I'm just popping these locks open. And I'm going to talk just a little bit about Good Clean Fiber. And Good Clean Fiber is a program that we started last year. And what we noticed from, and again, it's kind of funny talking about this in light of COVID, but we noticed that while we travel the country and we do different shows and we teach different classes, we'd see somebody the following year at a show or a festival, and we would say, hey, how's the drum carder doing? And they would say, well, I haven't used it yet because I bought a fleece at the wool show and I just couldn't bring myself to washing it. I was too scared I would felt it, or I didn't know how to do it, or I didn't have the space, or I didn't have the time to wash it. So the drum carder is still sitting in the box. And after hearing this time and time again, and also with working with a lot of the farmers, we have a lot of farmers and ranchers who purchase these carders because they'll process their own fiber. And they would say, well, I can only make it to one show a year, and if that happens to be a bad show, well, then, I have a bad year and I have no other way to sell my fiber. So we kind of drew a line between the two and said, hey, we're traveling the country, we're talking to both of these people, and we can really make something work here. And so what we do is when we go to a show, we'll meet up with people from the wool show and different farmers and ranchers in the area. And if they have fleece that is clean, meaning it's either coated or it's raised on a pasture, so it's not full of vegetable matter, we can strike a deal. And typically, where in a wool show, they might sell 1 at a time or 2 at a time. We'll say, okay, well, can we take 5 or 10 of these from you, or can we take your entire clip or half your clip, or which a clip is all of their shearing for 1 year. So we say, can we take more than just a onesie twosie of these from you? And they're happy to move on that much fleece in a single sale, and we're happy to take it. And what we do is we'll drive it back here to California, and we'll wash it, and then we part it out into smaller amounts. So if you don't want, say, a whole 5-pound CBM fleece, maybe you only want 2 or 4 ounces. But we have that available. We have that available in all kinds of different colors, and even staple lengths, and even in crossbreds. So that is basically the gist of Good Clean Fiber. You can purchase it if you just want to purchase, like I said, 2 ounces you can. If you want to purchase a whole clean fleece that's ready to process, you can. And then we also have a couple of subscription clubs And this one that I'm working with here is a Corridale from, this is kind of the odds and ends, the reject part of that Corridale that was part of one of our subscription clubs. And you can go to clemes.com/GCF, and that's where you'll find out all about the different subscription clubs that we have there. And you can also purchase some good clean fiber for yourself. Okay, we're at 3:40. We keep going for just a few minutes, but I do need to start thinking about wrapping it up. I should mention that our code word is drum carder. And best of luck. Thank you to everybody who commented in there. I hope that, I wish that each and every one of you could win it, but I know that only one of you will. But as a consolation prize, you can always go to clemes.com/GCF and order some for yourself. And I have a very small bat on here, but I do want to show you a couple of tools. So I am going to just wrap this up. If I can find a good lock here. Like I said, this was the odds and ends that didn't make the cut. Let's call it good here. And one more time, we'll lock that, pop that off, and feed it in. There we go. And I'll take my packing brush, and pack it down. Now, if I had done a bigger bat, I would have packed this early and often, but you can see there's a whole lot of daylight here. I'm going to pull this off. This is going to be just a few grams, whereas we can get about 4 ounces on this drum carder. So we're going to have just barely scratched the surface of what it is we can actually do. But for a demonstration, this will be good. Okay. Here we go. And since we are going to start wrapping this up here, if you have any final questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, feel free to pop them on into the comments section. So this is the bat lifter. I talked about this a little bit earlier. The bat lifter has an anti-static sheet and 2 wooden pieces. We're going to clamp the ends together. We're going to roll it over the top and away from us. And you can see this is a really thin bat. And typically with a really small bat like this, if you're pulling it off by hand, you're going to end up leaving most of it behind. But that's really the power of the bat lifter. As you can see, we're removing the whole bat right here. And then I'm going to pop it into, this is what we call the clear storage tube. And again, with the size of the bat, this isn't quite impressive. But if this was a 4-ounce bat, which it easily could be, I could store it all right like this. So that's a whole pair of socks worth of fiber stored right in here. And it won't mat, it won't felt. The cats can't play with it or chew on it. You can toss a whole bunch of these in a plastic container, like a Rubbermaid container that's sealed and moth-proof. You don't have to worry about them getting your bats. And you can leave this however long you want, whether it's a minute and a half like now, or whether it's a year and a half like I have done in the past experimentally. When you go to pop this out, you can see it's fluffy, lofty, airy, ready to card, okay? So there we go, there's our bat. Just one pass through the drum carder, and I'm gonna hold this up. It's kind of hard to see, but you can see how well that's carded off just one pass. And that's what you get with using our drum carders, which have a mill style carding cloth. Really separates us from the rest of the industry. We're the only ones who use that. And with using our fun new toy, the lock pop over there. Opening those locks up before you put them into the carder really allows you to get through with at least 1 or 2 less passes on the carder. So, question.
Tell them where they can find your schedule for the week.
Yeah. So, well, as we wrap up here, I'll talk about a couple of other things here. So I did mention this is the first day of what we're calling summer camp. And you can find that at clemes.com/summer camp. Give me 1 second. I'll pop over to a different view so you can see my face instead of just my hands. There we go. Okay. So this is, like I said, the first day of summer camp. Clemes.com/summer camp. SUMMERCAMP. That's CLEMES.com. We are doing, over the course of the next 7 days, we have 4 days of kind of demonstrating and teaching like this, except for we're going to be 90 minutes each day instead of just 45. We're going to kind of focus, dig down on a different topic each day. And then we have 3 days where we'll be interviewing fiber arts gurus. Tomorrow we have Meg Casey. On Wednesday we have JC Boggs Faulkner, and on Friday we have Judith McKenzie. So there's a lot for us to talk about with each one of those 3 people, and we've got a lot of content to cover as far as techniques and tricks and tips that we want to show you on the other 4 days. So we've got a lot of good stuff coming up. And just like you had a code word today, each day for the rest of the week we'll have a code word. And at the end of the week, on the clemes.com/summer camp page, you can enter the code words that you picked up. And if you have 4 or more of the 8 code words, well, then you can enter a drawing to win the grand prize, which is a subscription, a 1-year subscription to the Good Clean Fiber Club of your choice. And the value there, I think the lowest one on an annual is $168 or as much as $216. So it's a pretty hefty price. Let's see. Any questions there for me, sir, before we go? Okay, a couple last things that I want to mention. Got a few seconds left here, so don't forget to comment Drum Carter in there, and they will choose our winner later on this evening, is what I've been told. Let's see, a couple other things. That was about it, actually. How about that? I actually covered everything. Okay, let's see. You can sign up for our email newsletter if you go to clemes.com. The bottom of every page has an email newsletter subscription. You can also go to clemes.com/summer camp. Scroll down to the bottom there if you want to learn about new tools, events, different things like that we're doing. That's the best way to find out, especially things like that, like our summer camp. We broke it yesterday via email newsletter first. Social media followed that. So if you want to stay on top of things, please join our email newsletter.
You gotta say hi to Leslie.
Hello to Leslie. Which Leslie?
Leslie Petra.
Oh, hi, Leslie. Miss you. We're not going to make it out to Nashville this year to see it. So that's it. Other than that, I think I've covered everything else. I've taken up my 45 minutes. I thank you all for tuning in. You can find us at clemes.com. Over the next week, I hope you join us at clemes.com/summer camp. If there are any questions, anything that I didn't cover, email us info@clemes.com, info@clemes.com. We are on Facebook, which is facebook.com/Clemes, spelled out AND Clemes. We are also on Instagram at all spelled out CLEMESAND CLEMES. Yeah, and that's it. Facebook, Instagram, email, website. You can find us in all the places.